due literally any minute, and I've said this before, you have to let me know in the comments if you're the same, but just before my period, like always before that time, I have this need, this urge to like declutter, organize everything and like nest, and I'm really feeling that today. So I thought it would be a good idea to film a how I organize my kitchen video and just show you like how everything is organized, and I'm gonna do a premenstrual declutter as well. Is very kindly sponsored by Green Chef, and if you click the link you can use my code to get 40% off on the first 2 green boxes and then 25% off your next 2 boxes, but more on them later. Okay, now that it's more YouTube ready, I actually didn't have to do that much, but every now and then I do like to go through all the cupboards and have a declutter, take everything out, put it back in again, make sure that I'm using things, whether things are in the right place, out of date food, that kind of stuff. But didn't have that much to do, so now it is YouTube ready so I can show you my cottage kitchen. It is a rental kitchen, so I don't own this place, but I've lived here for nearly 2 years now, which if you already follow me and you watch my videos you will already know that, but I will leave a link to the video that shows you like this specific room being renovated slash made over. I don't have the regular day-to-day, like the more common rental constraints where you're not allowed to, you know, even nail anything into the walls, or you're not allowed to paint or anything like that. I do have quite unicorn landlords. They're really cool, really laid back, and they are quite happy for me to kind of do what I want. But I do rent the place, so I am working within constraints though. But hopefully showing you how I organise my kitchen will inspire, motivate you to organise your own kitchen. I always think it's good to see like visual inspiration and how other people do stuff. And I've done this for years and years and years, and it really helps me to keep the kitchen simple, clutter-free, and like a functional space as well as beautiful, which in terms of design is what I am always going for. I want things to look visually appealing, but I also want them to be very hardworking, suit me, suit my lifestyle, so everything just flows and makes life a lot easier. And I think kitchens are quite difficult to do because they are very hard working spaces. I mean, I live alone and I'm not a chef, like I'm not a big cook. I've talked about that before. I really struggle to cook for myself. I really struggle to feed myself well, but still this is probably what must be the most used room in the house. It's used every day. It sees a lot of traffic, so I can only imagine what that must be like in a family situation. But hopefully what I'm going to show you, as I give you like a little guided tour and the tips that I would give if you're wanting to simplify your own kitchen. Hopefully they will help no matter what your situation is. So I like to use the KonMari method, which is Marie Kondo's. That life-changing magic of tidying book literally changed my life. But in terms of specific room by room organizing, I really like her Spark Joy book and would definitely recommend that. So I tend to follow her principles. I find them really practical, really useful, really helpful. I don't get obsessed like I used to. I used to feel like I had to do everything perfectly. I don't now. Like, my goal for every room is, number one, how I want that room to feel, and then number two, it's about what that room is actually used for, so it suits me and my lifestyle and that it accommodates what happens within that room. So I use her principles as a guide, but then kind of make adaptations to give myself a little bit of breathing space, because I don't believe in doing things perfectly and just make sure that everything suits my lifestyle. But I do have what I would call like 4, sounds a bit formal, but guiding principles that I tend to follow, especially in a kitchen space. The first one is to only have things that I love and use. So if I don't use something regularly, and by regularly I would think at least once a year, because I think you have to think about seasonal items like Christmas or whatever holidays you celebrate. Sometimes there are things that you get out once a year and they do get used. So yeah, if I haven't used something within a year, chances are that I'm not going to use it, so there's no point in having it. And I have to love everything. Like, everything has to be within my own personal style, something that I deem beautiful or useful. A little addition to that is also that it has to be in date, which I guess comes under it being useful. Going through my cupboards, I remember the first time that I did this and just checking like what food was in date and what was out of date made a massive difference. That really helped me do a big declutter. And again, that's the kind of thing that I like to do on a regular basis. Just go through things maybe once a month and check if all the food is in date and I'm not keeping things that have absolutely no use because it's not safe to eat them. I try to keep away from duplicates. So I like to have just what I need. So I live alone, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I only have to have one plate, one knife, one fork or anything like that. I like to think about the maximum that I would ever need. I'm not one for having big dinner parties or anything like that, but I will have some friends over or I will have family over, but the very maximum I will ever need are sets of 4. So that is what I tend to have, whereas I used to have so many dinner plates, so many knives, forks, different pans, all sorts of stuff that just never got used. So I like to just have exactly the amount that I need, and I think that's happened like naturally over the years by paying attention to what I'm using. And I've got to the point now where I'll look at things and think, don't really need all of those things. I'm only using, say, 4 of them, so then any additional duplicates can go. Like, there's no point in having 10 chopping boards for me because I just won't use them. I'd rather just have one that I use all the time, is multifunctional and works for the kind of cooking that I like to do, which isn't loads and loads. in terms of the actual organising and deciding what goes where, I like to organise via category. So like Hope, my little dog, if you don't already know, Hope has her own drawer where all of her things live. I like to store food all together. I like to store utensils all together, and I like to store cleaning products all together. So I think about what the main categories are again for my own personal life, and I try and organize everything by that. And then when I'm thinking about where things are, it just makes it so much easier, and I can know that. I like to label things as well, which is just a personal preference. So like my label maker is one of my favorite things. I like to store things in jars because it looks visually appealing. I'm trying to do more zero waste shopping as well, so that's really good when you can take the jars and get them refilled. But I don't think that's like an essential thing. I think that's just it's just a personal preference thing. But it looks pretty, and personally, I like it that way. And the last one is to organise things in order of how frequently they are used. So like in the beginning, I said that I like to organise in terms of my lifestyle, and I like to think about how I use a room. So things that I am likely to use more of, so like I have, if I have porridge every morning for my breakfast, I want to make sure that that porridge is stored at the front of the cupboard as opposed to the back. And when I'm cooking, I can very easily put my hands on the utensils that I'm using more frequently. That just feels like a principle, a guide that just makes sense. It makes everything more practical. This is the whole space at a glance. So technically it is a dining kitchen. It's not, it's not the biggest room in the world, but for one person, and especially after what I've seen in terms of Paris and the apartments there, it is quite spacious. But I guess if you're used to like a big American kitchen, it's not that big. But this little bit is the dining table. Always like to have fresh flowers on there and candles. Never scented candles in a kitchen because apparently they interfere with like the scent of the food, and that makes a difference. These shelves are still a work in progress, I guess, but I like to have just a few pretty bits on there. Spend a lot of time in here, so I play music a lot. So the Marshall amp, I use that all of the time. More candles and a water bottle because I'm trying to drink more water, and I find that having a water bottle around does make me drink a lot more. The sink space I like to keep nice and clean and clear, and then I have like a bit of a decorative, I don't know, they're like dead branches and and eucalyptus over there. And then I like to have photos of friends and family there. It just feels like people are with me. This side of the kitchen is always super dark because I've only got a light coming in from the far end. Like in an ideal world, I would love to put a door with glass in there. But yeah, that's where the oven is. That's where the food's stored. I'll show you that. And then this is where the plates and cups and all that sort of stuff is. This little bit here is like the infamous kitchen drawer, and I keep like all my most important documents in there, like my passport, my wallet in there, just things that I tend to use every day, and this tends to be like the charging station. So I have my most used chargers in there, and then I have like spare keys and change, and I like to organize in these little boxes to just keep everything together. This is Hope's little drawer. Her lead is normally in there, but it's still in the car from a walk, and she has her treats in there as well. Just everything categorized together, feels like it makes sense. And then in this bottom one, this is like, you know, like seasonally. So I have my pumpkin carving kit in there because I always use that. Hello, Hope. Hello. I always use that once a year. Cling film I try not to use at all, but I inherited that, and every now and again I will have to use it. And then I have my shopping bags in here as well, so I always take these when I go and do a food shop. This under sink cupboard is this is where I keep all the cleaning stuff, just the essentials that I use regularly, and then on the top I have Hope's bits and bobs, like Hope's toothbrush and toothpaste and little travel water bottle, but everything where I can see it. And I really like to use these like baskets to, again, a bit like the little trays, just to keep everything together. This is probably my favourite drawer. I absolutely love this drawer. This is where I keep all of the utensils. This is everything that I tend to use on a daily basis. I absolutely love this tray. I think it's a Brabantia one, I can't remember, but it's like a bamboo storage tray. So that's what that looks like. The rest of these drawers, they always stick together because when I painted it, I can open them separately, but they just always stick together. That's my kind of drawer, empty. This is the label maker, which I absolutely love. Tea towels always live in there together. And then in here I've got like pharmacy stuff, so like tablets, hot water bottle. And then in the bottom drawer is where I keep bags, so like poo bags for Hope and bin bags as well, which I don't tend to use. Like I try not to use plastic as much as possible, but again, I inherit things and then I think, well, if I ever need them, at least I've got them. This cupboard is for tea and coffee, and again, just things that I use frequently. So I've got like my vegan vitamins in there. This is probably the most used jar in the entire kitchen, my giant tea bag jar. And again, like I'm making drinks more often, so it makes more sense to have these on the bottom shelf. Plates and stuff all live in here. I do miss my open shelving desperately, but it didn't make sense to make that many changes. So this is where all my plates and cups and drinks live, and I find that is more than enough, probably enough for 2 people as well as just one. The glasses are just very basic IKEA ones, and then the ceramics are from a brand called Barton Croft. I like to keep this counter space as clear as possible. Next to my giant tea jar is probably my next favourite thing. This is the stove top kettle, and I get asked about where this is from quite a lot. It's a copper kettle that was, I think they're handmade in Japan. I got it from the Ingredients London shop, so I'll leave a link to that for you as well. And then I used to have like the cooking utensils that I use the most in that I don't know, like vase, jar, storage thing. But I don't, and now I tend to use it as a vase for flowers actually. But I do like to have my chopping board out and salt and pepper to hand as well, because again, these are the things that I tend to use the most. Under here is where I keep, it's like the darkest cupboard, but hopefully you'll be able to get an idea. So I keep like all the cooking stuff that I've got, and I do just have a little milk pan, a saucepan, and then I have the casserole dish as well, which I find is absolutely plenty. I got that like kitchen essentials guide from Pickup Limes, who I love for cooking inspiration. Then I've got my toaster under there. Again, I've got spare vases because can never have too many vases. I absolutely love having fresh flowers every week. A little measuring jug, and then this is where the food lives, labelled ideally and in order of, you know, how often, how frequently I use stuff. Fresh fruit and veggies I like to keep in this metal wire basket. This video is very kindly sponsored by Green Chef. As I said, I do struggle to feed myself well. I think there's something that comes with living alone. If you live alone, let me know if you're the same. This is something I've struggled with, whether I've lived with people or not. Cooking for myself is a chore. It takes a lot of effort. I feel like I'm fine with breakfast. It seems to be evening meals that I really feel like are the hardest to do. And Green Chef really helps me with that. They are a delivery service. So you order a box, and mine comes with 3 meals for the week. You can order how many people you want those meals for. They do vegan, plant-based menus as well, which is really great. I find that their waste is minimal, which I really like, and I love the variety, I love the options. I find it really easy to use, and because I actually have them delivered, like I don't have to go out and buy big jars for a tiny recipe for one person. I find that this really encourages me to cook for myself very healthily as well. There is less to think about with more to enjoy. I love that you can select weekly recipes, and I love that you can pause or cancel at any time. And in terms of like delivery service, I think they're really good value for money as well. You can click the link in the description below and you will get 40% off your first 2 green boxes and 25% off your next 2 boxes. Big thank you to them for sponsoring this vlog. Hopefully you have enjoyed that vlog, and hopefully it's just given you some visual motivation, inspiration to declutter and organize your own kitchen and how to maybe do it. I think it always helps to like see how other people are doing stuff, and obviously we're all different, we've all got different kinds of lifestyles, but yeah, can't be what we can't see. So I always like to see what other people are doing, and if you've got any of your own falling over. If you've got any of your own like tips or suggestions or things that maybe you do I haven't included or whatever, leave them in the comments so that we can all see them, and I always like as many tips as possible. And big thank you to Green Chef for sponsoring this vlog. You can click the link in the description. You get 40% off your first 2 boxes and then 25% off your next 2 green boxes as well. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.